The Happiest Guy in the World is a documentary short directed by Lance Oppenheim, which follows Mario Salcedo, a man who has spent the last 7,300 nights on a cruise. This is a multimodal documentary. Oppenheim employs both observational and expository techniques to position the audience and present Mario to the viewer. Oppenheim never makes an appearance in the film, nor does he impose himself as the voice of God narrating the footage. Rather, still as is a tradition of expositional documentary, there is a voiceover present across. However, it is Mario, the subject, narrating his own story. The cinematography is completely observational, as almost all of it is Steadicam following or tracking the subject, with the director stating, "We were ultimately able to find a way that would mutually work for the both of us, a process that involved us simply setting up shots in the places we knew he would eventually flock to. From there, we would attempt to capture moments of his day as unobtrusively as possible." Music underlies the film, which increases the dual impact of the voiceover and long takes, intercut with Mario conversing with tourists. This sudden change to a seated interview at the end of the film is a deliberate expository technique which clashes with the transparent editing which usually is the norm in observational factual content. Yet it still adheres to one of Reynolds' four fundamental modalities: record, reveal, or preserve the subject, which in this case is Mario. The content of this documentary is presented as the complete centerpiece of the project. His voiceover commands almost all shots, apart from segments which are conversations he has with the other passengers. Oppenheim uses contrast to present to the audience a conflicting idea that Mario is the happiest guy in the world, yet majority of the film shows him alone among the vastness of the ship. Barnow comments that the documentarist, like any communicator in any medium, makes endless choices. He selects angles, lenses, juxtapositions, sounds, words. Each selection is an expression of his point of view. Specific framing of moments creates an idea of Mario, one which is on a more personal level, delving further into the mentality of the subject rather than his situation and environment. Very specific examples come to mind: the hard cut from him being congratulated by the captain and presented with wine to him alone in his room eating crisps whilst the bottle sits on his desk. Oppenheim deliberate moments in the film. The other guests are dancing to music and Mario is smoking by his computer. The shot match cuts from day to night, implying that he is not moved. The first time Mario exclaims in the voiceover that he feels happy alone, the image is a close-up of him drinking wine, and then a hard cut to a wide shot of him at a table where all the other glasses are stacked and he is alone, center frame. This visual adds another layer of inference to the documentary, where viewers can look for subtext and draw their own conclusions. The editing also allows the content to be perceived in a way which leaves conclusions to be drawn. In instances of conversation in the film, the cut will not happen right away. As the dialogue stops, it lingers, a deliberate choice by the filmmaker to present the content in a certain light. These choices by Oppenheim all serve a purpose, as the director had an idea of how he wanted to portray Mario to the audience. Going on to say, "I wanted to portray Mario in a manner reminiscent to space travel sci-fi films, a la Steven Soderbergh's portrayal of Clooney in his Solaris remake, untethered from our reality in a continual state of beautifully insightful, blissful ignorance." Lance Oppenheim uses his personal style as a filmmaker to create an interesting portrait of a man living an entirely different lifestyle to the rest of the world. This documentary stays in line with another from his oeuvre, focusing on the theme of home, explored in his documentary Long-Term Parking, and the changing idea of what home means. Oppenheim goes on to say that your home is so personal, and it got to him thinking about home today in 21st century America. Who and how and why do people choose not to live in traditional homes? The camera work frames the subject in such a manner that was developed by how Mario viewed the setting. Oppenheim elaborates that the visual language of the film was developed by how Mario viewed his cruise ship home. To do so, they chose to shot the film anamorphically on Steadicam to allow viewers to get closer to inhabiting Mario's fantasy, to push beyond the headlines and local news reports that have circulated around Mario's unique living conditions, and instead delve into his headspace. His blend of multiple modes allows for a deeper look into a subject with objectivity in the actual filming and an expository presentation of the subject with Mario's voiceover synced to the music. The modes, content, and style of the happiest guy in the world are all effective in this glimpse into the life of Mario Salcedo. The use of observational techniques paired with expositional documentary filmmaking creates something that not only observes and follows an interesting subject, but through decisions in editing, sound, and voiceover, invoke the audience to make their own decisions on whether or not Mario is truly happy. Oppenheim's application of personal style to this documentary has allowed for the subject to be uniquely explored through a range of multimodal techniques. It's a film about meaning, an exploration of what happens when you've reached your career goals. With its soft glow visuals and vivid aquamarine color palette, the film operates in a dreamlike realm. We can't help but wonder if the dream was ever real.